Hello, everybody, and we are coming today on another episode, Love It or Shove It. I'm Irina Portnova, and my co-host Bruno Gil is on vacation with his family and friends, enjoying. Hello, Bruno, whenever you're gonna watch us. But today we have amazing guest, Tino Dietrich. Tino, just introduce yourself and tell us, please, what you're doing in this world.
Thank you for having me, and hello and welcome everyone. My name is Tino Dietrich. I'm the CEO and founder of the Dietrich Institute. We're a group of experts from different areas of life and science, and we're focusing on empowering people to become a better version of themselves. My particular focus is relationships, mainly personal relationships, which results into my two call-out mission statements, turning more American houses into loving homes again, and to slow down the clock of divorce, or America's divorce clock. So those are the two main pillars of what I do, but we do have other people in other areas.
Oh my gosh, I just love that mission. Totally love it. And thank you so much, and so great to have you with us, Tino. So today we are going to be talking about love and self-identity, and how do we actually balance our individuality while we are in that beautiful loving relationship. Mm-hmm. Tino, would you like to take a stage?
Since I just heard it, the first thing that comes to my mind is it's interesting because we say individuality, which I believe requires you to understand who you are. That's the first step, and I believe that there are many people who think they know who they are, but they don't actually know who they are. And then there are people who don't want to know who they are, and they just pretend to be someone. So when they look in the mirror, they're looking at a person, but it's not themselves. So it's difficult. And I believe the first step to fulfill the balancing act is to understand, who are you? What is it that you want? Where you want to go, right? I always say, if you don't know where you are but you know where you want to go, every way may lead you there, because you're kind of lost, right? In order to connect those two dots.
Oh my gosh, I just love it. It just hits home, because that's so true. A lot of people don't know who they are and where are they going. And that's what becomes, even more challenging, right? Because there is no wind in the favor of the sailor who doesn't have the destination.
There you go. Beautifully put,
Yes. So basically the idea is like really know more who we are at the core. Like, what do we like? What are our beliefs? What are our values, right?
Yeah.
So this way we understand ourselves better. And the great way to start is just, asking these questions and journalize, right? Something that you could do for yourself for self-reflection and understanding. And obviously, once you realize who you are and what do you want, and obviously then you figure out what do you want in terms of your partner and in the love and relationship, correct?
Yeah. So just to address the first part, I have a term I call cruel, CRULE. So, and it's not cruel, but it's a combination of crappy rules. So and they are cruel, right? Because they stop you from going where you should go. So what does that really mean? We're formed by society, education, religion, values, beliefs, the way we've been brought up, yada, yada, yada. And that kind of defines us. And then we're kind of stuck in this cage And either we are there willingly and we accept it, or we're there unwillingly, and we kind of try and ignore it. But it doesn't matter. If you don't know, if you're not clear, if you don't have that clarity in your life, you're stuck. And it doesn't matter. You know, people try and fix their life, and often those are people who point at other people and say, I'm doing everything right, but she is always, you know, or he is doing this, and you know, and that, you know, puts you in that, what I call, that's cruel, that's crappy rules. You know, you should get rid of them. You should understand that maybe certain things you learned as a kid, maybe they've been okay at that time, but you know, times change and life changes and things change, and change means growing, and you know, yeah, if you're not growing anymore, if you don't change, then probably it's over, you know. So I think that is really important to understand as a first step before you start to change your relationship.
I love it. I love it so much, because it's true. It's like, as we grow, we evolve, and so does have to evolve our relationship, right? And people have this kind of misunderstanding, thinking, okay, I am married, now I don't have to do any work, everything is already been done, right? But I believe, like, right, it's funny, right? But me being married for 23 years, I know it actually takes more work to keep that, you know, flame going,
Yeah.
to, you know, keep up with the relationship, and to make sure that you know, you are actually presenting yourself as the best version.
Right. I mean, lots in what you just said. I think I'm married this coming year 25 years. Woo. Yeah. I always say I've been to a relationship hell and relationship heaven, and crossed that bridge many times in my life. So I do understand how it looks like in both sides of those bridge, and I understand that, you know, how to cross that bridge. But that's just one thing. Statistics tell us that almost every second marriage in this country falls apart, right? Fall apart. So, and then you would say, hey, okay, so you divorce, and those people who then get married again, they must have a better chance, right? Because they learn from their mistakes. But no, actually, the statistics tell us that 60% of those people divorce again. And people who go for, you know, three strikes out, so they try and marry a third time, those people have an 80% chance to divorce again. So instead of getting better, it actually gets worse. And I feel that what you said is absolutely right. You need to work. You need to understand that it requires constant attention, work, as life goes and grows, right? And throws us all these curveballs, then we need to respond and react accordingly. And I feel that people have a tendency to ignore that, and maybe even resonate. You know, it's like, it's just for people sometimes very difficult to cope with the challenges that are thrown at them, because they also take it very personal. Why me? Why always me, right? And when you're, other people may not talk about it, but they're in the same boat. We talked about that earlier, right? Like, I call that be boldly vulnerable. Be, you know, open up. Because trust me, your neighbor has the same problems, you know, the same challenges. And they may just, you know, go on their Instagram and pretend they live the perfect life. But the more perfect the life seems, the less perfect it might be, you know?
Oh my God. I just love it. I just love it, Tino. Especially the fact that it's true, you know, like you were saying, when people trying to avoid and escape, right? And when they just think, okay, I'm going to end this relationship because it doesn't work, they never take the responsibility on themselves as well. It's always about somebody else, but not me. And then they think if they're gonna just jump into the new relationship, it's gonna be much better. But obviously, like you just mentioned, statistically speaking, because unless they worked on themselves and actually do a deep inner work, that's exactly the only way their relationship becomes successful, even with the initial partner. But I truly believe that it requires two people to work.
Yeah, I think it requires actually one first, and you need to do this individually. Like even if you want to fix a relationship, you're like, oh, let's go to see a family therapist or whatever, and there's no way that a third party can help two people at the same time to work through these challenges, because first of all, I don't think that people have, if you're in that position, people have a hard time to open up. And the first person they need to open up with, they need to be honest with, is themselves. You know, you can lie all day long, but if you start to lie to yourself, which a lot of people do, they just keep telling themselves the whole thing over and over again until they believe it. Talking about manifestation, right? So we know, like, hey, I can do this, I can do this. You can also say, I cannot do this, I cannot do this. You know, so we have a funny saying in Europe when you go skiing. We say God is with the drunk and with the children, you know, when they go down the slopes, because they never fall and break a leg or something. The drunk are so loose and flexible that, you know, they even if they fall, they don't hurt themselves. But the person that's standing up there on top of the hill, looking down, is like, oh my God, this is so steep. You know, when I go down now, what if I fall and break my leg? I cannot attend the meeting next week. I might lose my job. The project is gone. And you know what? That person most likely will fall, break a leg, and all this is happening because all they do is unconsciously they invited all this into their own life, right? So that's what, you know, I didn't say that. That's what every ski teacher will tell you, is like, hey, don't do that. Don't go there and think about what if. You're not gonna fall. And even if you fall, you get up and ski again, right? That's what you do. And the kids go down and you go, whoa, this looks so crazy. But even if they fall, they're like back up on their feet. You know,
Yeah,
there is some truth to it.
yes, it's totally true. But I have to admit, I'm such a snow bunny. I tried once to go down the slope, and I said never again. This is not me. But I wasn't just like projecting much. I was just, you know, like in a frightful zone. But this is so true, like you're saying, and it just applies to life, right? A lot of times we're just living in our head, which we are projecting into our life, because 99% of things that we are like actually playing out in our head are not real. And by just, you know, producing all these scenarios, we are actually sooner or later bring them forward into our real life. But to go back on the point that, you know, like in the relationship, it takes two to tango. What I mean is not necessarily that people have to go together to the therapist, and you know, I mean that both people have to work, because this is what's gonna happen. If one person is like going through that self-growth and development, and another person is just sitting where they are stating, so two things are gonna happen as an outcome. Either that person, the one that doesn't do the work, finally wakes up and wants to like actually match that person, because the gap is going to be created even bigger. Because once that person is going to work on themselves, the ones that really wanted to do something about the life and realize that, you know, like the other person is not a perfect match anymore. So it's either the other person is gonna also uplift themselves and do the work on themselves, or they're just gonna, you know, fall apart, and that other person who worked on themselves is gonna find a better partner.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I think what we tend to do in relationships is we look at our partner and for whatever reason expect something, right? But what I always say is I'm me personally, I'm a very bad mind reader. I've never been able to read minds. So if you don't tell me, I have a very difficult time to meet that expectation. And sometimes people say, oh, you make me feel anxious. You make me feel this. You just said that, and this makes me feel like, okay. But you got to ask yourself first, and I always say that, you got to ask yourself first, the person in front of you that is telling you, assuming you're in person, right, or on FaceTime or on the phone, the person that is saying whatever he or she is saying, is that meant to be the way you perceive it, right? If somebody says you make me feel angry, so is that person trying to make you angry? Or is it just because the way you feel, right? Is it a reaction to something completely different? Just because you may got a bad morning, you got a bad start into the day, right? And as this turns out, people, there's that example. You wake up in the morning, the coffee pours on your new shirt, and you have that meeting, and now you have to another shirt, and you come late to the meeting, and you're sitting there, and you're all worked up. It doesn't matter what the person is saying in front of you, because you're worked up, and everything he or she will be saying will be perceived by you in this state of mind, right? So just take a deep breath before you enter that room and say, reset, push that reset button, smile, and enjoy the moment, right? Go in there, say everything is going to be great. Actually, I just, flushed out all the bad things that could happen today. So from here onwards, only good things could happen. But no, people have that tendency. Oh, this is always happening to me. Always when I have these meetings, I pour coffee over my shirt, and I say, hey, when people come to me and say that, I say, I can't really change how you feel, but why would I make you feel angry? Why want to make you feel sad? I don't want to make people feel sad or angry, unless I have a reason. Then you got to ask yourself, does he or she have a reason, to make me feel angry? Maybe if my son just poured the coffee on purpose on my shirt, that is a reason. But you get the point. And I think that is a tendency we develop. Like we just take things and it kind of turns into an avalanche from a little snowflake into this big problem.
Totally, which brings me to the point how important it is, the communication in the couples, right?
Big mystery. Today I had a coaching session, and it was interesting because the person I spoke to, very technical driven and focused, right? Like, okay, how can I say this better? How can I? And I said, look, is like this. Tell me, what is it that you want to? What is the message? Like, tell me the basic. And was completely unclear about the basic. And I said, before we go and talk about how, let's try and understand the what. Yes. Because I rather have a not perfect what communicated, so to say, right? Not perfectly communicated, than a bad what perfectly communicated. You follow? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Because I also feel that if you know exactly what you want, and you have that when people know what they do, and they're really an expert and authority, and they feel super comfortable with what they do, then it all comes automatically. I don't know, like, a singer he or she sings. It's not like she sings that moment and thinks, okay, the next word is this, the next word is this, the next note is this. It comes. It's just, there's something. It's, of course it takes practice and whatnot, but they just own it.
Love this. I love this. You know what? It comes to me now. How about how do couples can avoid the codependency? Because obviously, a lot of times people feel they say, oh, "We are the one." What do you think about this expression?
That I think that's an interesting discussion. I think it's totally fine as long as you know, and the Asians have the yin and yang concept as a whole.
Right.
And I think that really is what it is. But you need to understand, what are you, yin or yang, right? And I'm not saying you have to be one or the other, but if you want to have a balanced relationship, which is really what you want, balance means you need to put weight in each side according to the balance shift, right? And I don't want to go into physics right now, but we follow the principle, right? It could be a little balanced, it could be more weight on that side and less weight here, so you then move the center to the other side. But that is what people need to understand, and it will require first you get yourself into, okay, what, right? You have clarity, and then you begin to communicate. But I feel that either people don't know what, and then they communicate, and then they're super surprised that it doesn't go anywhere, and then they're really upset about it, or they know what, but they don't communicate and expect the other party just to mind read. Oh, I thought you know, oh, he didn't surprise me. It was my favorite birthday dinner. And you were like, well, what is your favorite? You know, you never told me. You never told me you want to go to that place. It's just difficult. So I think communication is the shift of the balance, but the weight is the what.
Totally. So how can people preserve their individuality in the couple?
I think, first of all, the importance is the balance. And I don't think that there is I think the relationship has many aspects, right? There's, if you have kids, there's parenting, there's finances, there's household chores, there's sex, right? There's so many different aspects, and you need to build balance in all of them. So the other party doesn't feel that all the weight is shifted to one side, you know, then there's imbalance. So you need to really look at your very own situation, the individual situation, and then you create the balance thereafter. And again, understand what, and then begin to communicate equally. Allow the other party also to explain, you know, because maybe you say, I want to be yin, and then the other party says, no, I want to be yin. Now you got two people want to be yin, you know, like very not balanced. That you two people on the same side. So you need to maybe come up with a compromise.
Right. So what comes for me in terms of individuality, because like I said, I've been married for 23 years, and a lot of my time I was dedicating to my family. Of course, you know, my parents helped me big time to raise the kids because I was always working full time, and my husband as well. And his parents also took the part of it. So like I said, we were lucky enough, because if we ever wanted to go out for the date, we could just do it without like really, you know, sacrificing anything, because we had parents on both sides to help us out. But what I realized, like since I changed my career, right, once I discovered my true passion and purpose, that was the time for me when I truly focused on myself. So now I'm in that space where I choose myself as the priority. And it's a very interesting space, because obviously, you know, it also kind of, you know, shows an imbalance in the family. But at this point of time, this is exactly my choice, because I felt cold, and I felt that this is the time where I have to like actually focus on myself and focus on what I'm really here to do in this world. So when we are talking about choosing the individuality, and especially for women, I think it's even um, more of a good topic to talk about, because usually women carry that weight of being a good mother, being a great wife, working at the job, being a good daughter. So it's a lot of hats that women actually wear. And the question comes, when is that time of who am I, and where is the time that I can actually dedicate to myself and understand who am I and what am I here to do.
And I think that is right there. I encourage people to take that step early on. And I believe that people like yourself have part of your journey, and I would say purpose, is to raise people's awareness early on. You don't fasten the seatbelt after you crash the tree. That doesn't make too much sense, unless you cover up something for insurance purposes. But you follow the logic here. I think people need to really, because the longer you wait, the more difficult it will be, because things have established themselves. If you come after 20 years, all of a sudden you say, hey, you know what, 20 years I've been never said a word, and now because it's almost like a bottle of Coca-Cola you're shaking, and then boom, let go, and then poof, everything. And the other party is like, whoa, where's this coming from? And I think that really is what you need to do. You need to start working early on that balance. You need to understand and make a conscious decision so the challenges you face are better manageable. And the more conscious your choices, the better you're able to manage those challenges in life. And even better if you have a family with you, because you started to communicate early on. What? Right? You made it clear. You said, hey, I need this space. People say always, oh, when I exclude myself as a mother from the family and I say, I need this day, I need a half a day off or something, I'm a bad mother. I don't know who taught you that, but there's not a written book that is, these are the 10 rules of a good mother, and whoever's not following these 10 rules, you're out. You're not going to be into mother's heaven. That book doesn't exist. And if somebody says that book does exist, he's or she is full of baloney.
What comes for me, it's just like, everybody has their own timing for awakening. And that's exactly what happened with me, right? If I knew something early, but I was just navigating the 3D world. And once I discovered there is something more to life, that's exactly how my life actually turned in a different direction. But obviously for listeners who are listening, at least for them to kind of keep their corner of the mind open for the possibilities, understanding that life is not just, black and white. There are so many different colors, and explore exactly who you are, what you want. And obviously when you're in the couple, just maybe married, maybe not, maybe just together, always know exactly what you want. And always I think it's great to have the partner who is supporting you, because it makes a big difference. So this way, when we are talking about self-identity, it's all about understanding and respecting each other boundaries, respecting each other goals. And
but that is a process. I agree with everything you're saying, but there's so when people wait too long, they want to make a drastic change. It's very clear. If you off course just a tiny little bit in the beginning, it just requires a little bit of change and you're back on course. But if you wait, goes like this. So the distance is growing, right? So if you learn to align early on or stay at least on course as much as possible, those changes are not that drastic. But this is exactly what happened. People wake up after 7 years, 5 years, 3 years, 20 years, and then they freak out and they want to bridge this huge distance in a day or in a week. Okay, now we got to change A, B, and then the other person, just because you just woke up, so to say, you expect the other person also to wake up and agree with everything. We got to change everything, right? No, just because you doesn't mean that the other, and that is a process. And that's why I'm saying you really have to be clear about everything. And I encourage people to learn that. It's like practicing, like you don't lose 30 kilos or 60 pounds in a week. There's no way. I mean, there's probably some way, but you got to cut off your leg or something. So if you don't want to do that, don't want to go through surgery and want to, become fit, and it requires constant workout, changes, discipline. And discipline is always associated with strict and, there's no fun. It can be fun. Make it fun, right? Make your workout fun. Listen to some funky music, whatever.
Yeah, because the inner growth is the most rigorous work.
Yeah.
And it requires the most discipline. That's why people, cannot do it on their own. It's great when you have that support.
Someone to hold you accountable.
Exactly, accountability. And then you have to be in the space of like-minded people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can feel alone because, if your relatives, if your friends don't understand, because obviously you upgrade yourself, you upgrade the circle that you're around. And that's what happens.
And that's what we do. We're building this community of like-minded people who come together to find that safe space, right? This is why I say turn houses into homes. It's so important to have that safe space, early on. It doesn't mean that, if you're not have it early on, then as early as you can, right? This is important.
I think it's always important. So whatever, like me being a manifestation coach, I'm all about, you can start from today and it's never too late.
Yeah. I mean, you know how it is. Everybody has those resolutions, right? It's your birthday and then, or New Year's or whatever. You always mark these very special days that we're all made up. I mean, there's someone once invented it and said, let's make this New Year's, and boom. And now we believe in it, right? And we say, okay, now everything is different next year. This is just from Monday to Tuesday or Wednesday to Thursday. You can do it any day. You can do it today.
Absolutely. It requires just a decision, to make a decision to start doing something for yourself. So let's go back to the couples.
Mm-hmm.
From your own experience, Tino, how do you manage that individuality being in the couple?
So I feel that boundaries are extremely important, and to communicate them openly and clearly, discuss them, understand them, right? That's one thing. And I think that also results into that safe space for yourself. I think you need to allow the other partner to live their own life, right? And you gotta let go. You can't control people. not even children. You can only give them guidance. You can give them a home. And I think that is really important. And the more you are aware of that, the less the burden of trying to fix things that are not fixable. You try to control something that is uncontrollable. The stronger you try to do that, the further you're pushing people away from you. So you really have to balance all these aspects of a relationship and have these boundaries, have respect, and have love.
So important, so crucial. Like, I was fortunate enough, like I always say, otherwise I wouldn't stay married. Like I always have my space, and I always, gave the space to my husband as well. So it's great when people have time for themselves and do whatever they like to do. And you're so correct in terms of the control. You cannot control anybody but yourself.
And even that is is challenging. But yeah, you're absolutely right. But I think it's interesting that you say that, because we try and fix other people, but I always say maybe you start fixing yourself first and then go and fix others, right? It's like
Totally. There is always something for us to fix.
People when people come to me and say, "Oh, how you do this?" and I said, "Hey, I screw up. I'm not perfect. Do we fight? We fight in our family, crazy. We yell at each other and fight, but we also come back together and say, okay, done, right? So we clear the air, and I think it is so important, because when you learn how to do that with respect, even though you can fight, you can argue, you can do this, but there is this respect, then there's very little that can come in between. And maybe you end up not talking to each other for 2 days. Okay, you know what? That's okay too. That is okay. And then you come back together and you smile and you laugh and you say, because in a year from now, you go back and you say, you remember that little fight we had there the other day, a year ago? And you'd be like, no, I don't. Forgot about it. Right? So how important is it in the bigger scheme of things, right? And especially after I went through that whole COVID experience in the ICU, like, to me, a lot of things in terms of what's relevant and what's really important, and you look at things in a different way.
So true. And a lot of people create the problems from nothing.
They're actually some people are perfect in doing that.
They are too creative to do that.
Maybe they think that's their purpose in life, is to create problems.
Right. So true. So I think it's all about, when we talk about love and self-identity, it's good to love each other, but at the same time not to forget your own self. Always remember who you are. Don't get yourself lost. Right? Because it's gonna be then an adventure to find yourself back, which you always can, right? But the thing is, like, you always have to remember what you're all about, what are your likes, or what are the things that you enjoy doing, and continue doing them. Always set that time for yourself to do something that makes you feel great, makes your life more enjoyable. And I think it's all comes down to the respect, because when people do respect each other in the relationship, they know how to give each other space and how to give each other time for themselves.
Yeah, very true. Respect, trust, which ultimately then also leads to love, right? I think it's important. But I think it's the because you can love someone but not be loved in return. And I think there's this song, the greatest gift of all is to love and be loved in return. And I think that actually is that flow, that balance, right? You give love, you get love, and at the end of the day, there's probably very little that makes us feel better than to be loved and to love, right? And in return, it's the best. I mean,
Yes, our life is all about love. Love for each
it
other,
it is.
love, like love everybody, right? It's not only about romantic love we are talking about,
No.
love for humanity.
Love what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Be in love with yourself.
That actually is interesting, because people say, oh, so what do you do with relationships and this and that? And I say, we start with the relationship. The most important relationship in your life is the one you have with yourself. And that's where a lot of people begin to with their work to, fix a broken relationship. It's
So true.
much more difficult to fix that relationship than the relationship you have with your partner. Because, I mean, worst case, and God forbid that happens, you can't fix the relationship you have with your partner. At least you are 100% clear in terms of your relationship with yourself, right? But if that's not okay, if that's broken, if you're really working through all these issues, and then you get hit by another problem, then you're completely off balance.
So true. And it's important, right, to understand, so this way you don't beat yourself up when something doesn't work, right? And you don't blame yourself for everything what's going on. That's when we go about, that's what's important, like, uplifting self-talk and understand yourself and love yourself and accept yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I just love that expression, flawsome. I'm awesome with all my flaws.
Mm.
And that's exactly what people have to understand. There is no such a thing as perfect. Just, the most important thing is just be yourself. Know exactly who you are, what you want in this life, and be authentic self. Express yourself to the fullest, and just don't wear the masks, because majority of the people do. They act like one person at home, they act like another person at work, the third person around the friends, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So the main point is just be always who you are, and you'll see how the life is going to actually change for you.
I believe that people have a tendency to predict, they try and understand what other people may think about them, because you said at work and with friends. And so we're trying to portray this balanced life. I'm not saying perfect, but I say balanced life, right? So it's all good. Your work is good. Your family is good. Everything is good. Based on the values, the beliefs, and so on and so forth that surround them. That could be religious, right? That could be anything, education, so on and so forth. It's like, this is what you have to do. Boys don't cry. Says who, right? Like all these crappy rules that, we encounter in our lives and that make us do these things. But only if we question them and say, why do I do what I do? And then you have a clear answer to that. Maybe you change what you do because you realize that what you do is not really right. It's not going to get you where you want to go. You change that, and all of a sudden you're moving forward. You say, wow, now I shifted into gear 1. Excellent. Instead of just pushing pedal to the metal.
So true. So true. So any recommendations for the listeners in terms of how to combine love and self-identity?
The first step is to love yourself. You want to bring this all into harmony. You begin with yourself. If and that probably is the most difficult part. And the people that say, "Oh, I got that," right out of the gate, trust me, they are not there unless they already have taken that step consciously. But someone who says it right when you ask them, like, "Hey, no, yeah, I don't need that. I'm okay." That's the person that needs it for sure. So only after that, take a second step. So, and the second step is, once you're clear, you need to understand where you are. So now you're clear where you want to go, but now you need to understand where you are. And that's the same, that sometimes that is difficult to admit, that the things you're seeing are not what you're telling yourself you're seeing. So be clear about that too. And then mirror both, and you will understand the path you have to take. For some people, they close the book right there and say, "Whoa, that's a long path," or "That's a deep valley I have to walk through, that's a dark forest, I don't want to walk in there." But that decision is yours to take. But those are, if you don't do that, if you just do what you do because you do it, it's worth nothing, and it will not get you anywhere. You may just tell yourself, "I did everything I could," and in reality, you didn't. You just keep telling that yourself just to feel better. But again, that's about the feeling. It's not important what you feel, because feelings are thoughts, right? Fear is something that hasn't happened. Future events appearing real. Fear. So you fear that your partner is going to react this way. You don't know, right? So those are really, I think, important steps, and everything else, it'll find its way. Because if you want love, manifestation, if you really want love, if you're allowing that to come into your life, if you embrace it, if you know what love is, because now you're clear, it'll come. It'll come. It'll find its way. You just have to be ready.
Right. That's so true. I love it, everything what you said. And I just wanted to add that in relationship, it's always important to feel valued and empower each other, because that's exactly what love is all about.
Yeah, I agree 110%, even though there's no 110, just for the record, but 2 thumbs up.
Thank you so much. So for everybody who's listening to this episode, reflect on what love is for you, and how do you show up in that relationship? How do you able to stay true to yourself and be able to preserve that self-identity? And as always, thank you so much, Tino, for joining us. Come back anytime. And all the links we already posted for you. Contact Tino if you want some clarity, if you want some consult. And see you in the next year.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Thank you.